Okay guys, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is rain on your wedding day. Now, as many of my fellow Victorian colleagues in Australia, last weekend we experienced, and I think it's forecast for this weekend even, we experienced just a complete wash out in November, which is crazy because it's springtime for us. And yes, like in our part of the world, we can have all seasons in one day, but I think the last weekend's weather situation really threw some people off guard. So, you know, I'm right there literally in the puddles, in the trenches with you guys. But it shed a light on something that I think goes without saying, but is also, recently people have sort of been going, yeah, but it won't happen to me. Like, yes, I know I need to have a backup plan and I need to consider rain, but it won't happen to me. And so I really wanted to give a frank and realistic pep talk about what those backup weather plans, especially considering rain, I'm specifically talking about the rain today, what they need to involve and how to navigate all of those things there. Because you need to have a solid, I'm going to emphasize that word, solid plan in place, because quite often you'll want to leave it till as late as possible to make that call, especially if you're having an outdoor ceremony or reception. Don't have outdoor receptions, but especially if you're having an outdoor ceremony, you're going to want to leave that decision making till as late as you can, because you are just putting in every prayer to the weather gods that you can that the sunshine is going to come out. But in order to, have the freedom to do that, you need to have a solid backup plan. So not only you and your bridal party and your guests, but your whole supplier and vendor team that are working that day can just shift to that in an instant, because that's all the time you have, right? So what I mean in terms of exactly what to include for that wet weather backup plan is, number one, make sure your reception space can adequately host an indoor ceremony if you need to move indoors. Or specifically, like for my private property wedding clients out there, if you've got a marquee, we tend to always get a slightly bigger marquee so it can at least host the dance floor in undercover, and if so, ceremony setup as well. The tricky thing is here, typically within Australia, we'll have your ceremony and then we'll move to a cocktail or canapé or pre-dinner drinks area and then move into the reception. So there's often sort of 3 zones to a wedding day, and the one place to cover everything. Because if you have, say, a marquee wedding for your reception, but your ceremony's outdoors and your canapes are outdoors as well, and you're needing things relocated from your ceremony, which is the smart thing to do, to repurpose things, you need to allow the team time and space to be able to do that, to move your ceremony items into the reception. If you have your entire guest list just swarming straight to that reception space, there is no room for us to be able to do that. And then that's when, those details, those florals, the furniture pieces, the signage pieces, all of the things that you're wanting to repurpose get missed because you physically can't do it, because everybody is packed in there like sardines. So you need to consider an undercover option for all 3 zones, not just have one spot that you're wanting to cover everything for. It just doesn't work that way. A really great way to mitigate that, so you're not having 3 separate zones, although you can do that, you can opt to have a separate ceremony space that's undercover, but that is large enough to host the canapes there as well. So that means that your guests don't have to move too far. After your ceremony, you can go straight into family photos and, have a little congratulations, catch up with everybody there, and then your guests can stay there and then enjoy the bar service and canapé service from there while you go off and do your portraits. But then that is also leaving the reception space vacant for the supply team to be able to relocate things in there. So that is a really great way to do it. So yeah, undercover areas, and yeah, making sure there's room for all three spaces or all three zones of your wedding to be able to do that comfortably. Another thing is umbrellas. So I think for the ceremony in particular, umbrellas are often considered from a shade perspective, which is 100% necessary, because if it is piping hot, you need to be able to provide that adequate shade for your guest list. Sorry, I have a puppy and it's playtime. I think the other element that gets missed with umbrellas is the fact that you need to keep them for the rain, for the wet weather, right? So having adequate umbrellas, not only for shade but for rain, is a big tick, especially at your ceremony. That is going to, yeah, really save you there. And having them sort of set up, yeah, from like plan A, unless it's super windy, because we don't want to lose umbrellas down the road, is, yeah, a must. If it's looking like it's going to rain, I strongly also suggest just putting a note out to your guest list as well. You know, just pack a raincoat or a jacket or an umbrella if they have one too, that they can bring along, because it's just really not fun when your guest list is unfortunately underprepared and then they have to sit in those clothes for the rest of the night. You know, nobody wants to be sitting in soggy wet clothes. So I think it's always a really nice note to be able to just, you know, put the note out to your guest list and give them a little bit of heads up, just so they have something in the car that they can bring with them. On top of that, I also like to provide handheld umbrellas as well. Not that you have to necessarily cater one per guest at your wedding, but you know, just have enough on hand, especially even just for your bridal party, because chances are you're probably not going to pack one in the car, and then that way, you know, the planners, the coordinators, when you're getting out of the car ready to walk down the aisle, they can just help offer a bit of that extra cover for you. I think that's really handy as well. So umbrellas are a must. Another thing to consider here is also the staffing situation and the menu situation that you've got going on after the ceremony. So I'm talking for canapes and bar staff. If you, for instance, have roaming canapes, but if you have like a grazing table or an oyster bar or something like that that stays in one spot for guests to come up and get a serving of, then that needs to obviously be under cover too. So if that can't be, you know, under a roof line, then definitely making sure that you've got large market umbrellas to cover that is a must. And same with the bar as well. So, you know, these staff members as well are going to be standing there serving all night. So you want to make sure that they're, you know, covered as well. So it's about really making sure that you have the comfortability of your guests and your vendor team front of mind, because being, like I said, being in wet soggy clothes all night is really not fun. No one brings a change of clothes to a wedding. So yeah, I think when you consider the comfortability of the people that are attending your wedding, that is what's going to really impact the memories that they have of your day. You know, people might remember that it was raining your day, but it's how it made them feel. And if you don't have any of that cover protection, then them sitting out in pouring rain, getting absolutely drenched, is probably going to be a core memory for them rather than the fact that it was raining, if that makes sense. So yeah, just really keeping the comfortability of consideration list, I'd say. Now, back to in relation to marquees, when I spoke about often having a bigger marquee, sometimes I get it, especially if you're having a cocktail style wedding, you don't often need that big marquee space to host everyone, because typically you're wanting to sort of achieve more of that indoor outdoor feel for the reception, and I totally get that. But it would be wise to, I guess, have a chat with your wedding planner or the marquee company that you're using, but to really sort of try and aim for that middle ground space so there's still room under cover if it does rain, because you don't want to go for just a simple small marquee for a wedding of 150 people, because you're hoping that everybody will be outside, but then it rains and then all of a sudden you go, well, where are we going to fit everyone, because this marquee cannot hold everyone. And I understand and I absolutely appreciate that, you know, the bigger the marquee, the more cost involved. But I think it's something that we can liken to, you know, it's an insurance, right? Just like we pay car insurance, home insurance, life insurance, you're paying to have the cover if you need it. And I think the same goes for a marquee. And something also worth noting here too, I mean, different companies have different rules around their booking system. Some are happy to take a tentative booking if you're wanting to add an extra marquee or extra roof line or anything like that. Some require a deposit, most require a deposit, and then you can make the decision later on. But the thing is, if you decide to wing that, if you decide not to communicate that with your marquee company, not put down a deposit, not put down a tentative booking in writing with them and just wing it, if you're getting married in a peak time in wedding season and everybody is getting rained out, everybody is going to be doing the same thing. So it is probably going to, well, not probably, it will be a lot harder for you to source an extra marquee or an extra roof line cover last minute, because everyone is in the same boat. Everyone can see the weather forecast, everyone can see the radar, so everyone's scrambling to get these last minute marquees, and you don't want to be the one that misses out. So I think that is very important as well, and it's just something that you won't regret. I think paying a little bit more for that reassurance and that peace of mind really goes a long way. And if you're not sure, lean on your professionals, and take their advice. A good professional, I guess, shouldn't be just smiling and nodding and going along and saying like, yeah, it won't rain. I think, you know, you can be optimistic, but a true professional needs to be realistic as well and not shy away from having the tough conversations, because I think honesty is really valued in these situations. And if you've got a team of yes people, when it comes to crunch time in making the decision of whether to move indoors for a ceremony when it's looking like it's going to rain, that's just going to be a disservice to you. I think there is some real value in listening to the words that, you know, you probably don't want to hear, but they're coming from a really honest place. Yeah, there's some real gold in that. So lean on your professionals, and trust their intuition. You know, we're not weather people by any means, but I think, for example, we have done hundreds and hundreds of weddings over the past 12 years. We've got the best weather apps and tools at our fingertips that you know, get us through wedding season, that we find are pretty accurate. So we're happy to put our name to that and put our word to that. And yeah, I just think there's a lot of gold in it, even if it's not the answer that you want to hear. Yeah, so just really lean on your professionals and trust their guidance too. So I hope this helps in terms of preparing for wet weather. I do just want to end this though on a light note, because it's not all doom and gloom. I think, you know, if you are caught in a situation where it's unavoidable that you and your guests are in the rain, it's important to, you know, take a big deep breath in the moment, that yes, it's not how you initially envisioned the wedding, but this is the hand you've been dealt. This is what is meant to be. This is what the universe is delivering to you. So let's just embrace it and let's make this one heck of a wedding. And if you can keep a smile on your face, like, yes, I can imagine like a bit of an initial freak out, totally get that, But just remember to keep a smile on your face too, because you're walking down the aisle, and at the end of the aisle they may be soaking wet, but they're standing there waiting for you to marry you, to spend the rest of their lives with you. So, you know, just take some peace and comfort in that. Remember to smile, embrace it, dance in the rain. And, you know, some advice that I gave one of our couples on the weekend that's just gone, and I said this to them. I said, I'm not just saying this because it's raining on your wedding day, but when you've got an incredible team, especially an incredible videography and photography team, like, they really make lemonade out of lemons, especially when it rains, because some of those photos and that film that is taken on a day where it's pouring down rain is just so magic. I can't even put it into words. And I'll share a few images of some past weddings on our socials with you, so you can get a bit of a sense to that. But I think that is where the real art form in film and photography really shines. I love how that comes out on a rainy wedding day. And when I talk to couples, you know, the day or two after their wedding, and they get their little previews back of the photos, they all say that too, like, holy wow, that looks incredible. It is just magical. And yeah, I don't think I've spoken to a couple where they've had rain and they've just, you know, fallen into a heap and said how crap it was, or, you know, got their knickers in a knot, that it wasn't how they thought it would be. They do just embrace it and go with it. Smile, dance in the rain to Shania Twain. That's how I left the couple on Friday night. Man, I feel like a woman. It was just the best. The vibes were high. And yeah, that's a little motto that I've put in there, that if you can keep your vibes as high as the rain gauge, then you're onto something. So on that note, I will leave it at that. Keep your vibes as high as the rain gauge.